Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of LR Backstage. This episode brought to you by S&D Education, and I am with John Hunter, who is a very talented vocalist, singer-songwriter, a multi-instrumentalist, as well as owner of John Hunter Acoustics. So, John, welcome today. How are you feeling?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, man. I just, I was so impressed with the company, with the business when I came across it, and as we got to chat and I get to know a little bit more about you. I then kind of find out that you are also just an extremely talented and passionate musician, vocalist, multi-instrumentalist as a whole. And that's something that, I really wanted to kind of dig a little bit deeper about, into your career as a musician and how that's brought you to being the owner of a really successful, acoustics company. So, John, please, without further ado, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into music and acoustics? And please take your time.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing guitar since I was 12. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, got a degree in professional music, which is like a design major. Basically singing, songwriting, lyric writing. I took music business and an acoustics course. And then once I graduated from Berklee, I left for LA after. Actually, I stayed in Connecticut for like a month to help my dad just paint the house. And then I went over to, LA, just shipped out. I went on the trip with my cousin and sister. They wanted to be on the trip and they flew back, but it was fun. But, headed to LA and then, right away, I stayed with an uncle for a couple months, and then I had an apartment where I set up my first studio for my own music.
Did you get a job? Did you get a job during that time?
Yeah.
Like just to kind of make ends meet?
Yeah, I did.
And how long ago was it?
That was more than 15 years ago. But I initially got I have a background in landscaping and painting as a kid. I had my first landscaping business at 16, right when I got my license. So when I moved to LA, I initially was getting a painting job, but all the jobs were like 2 hours of driving. I mean, LA traffic is nuts. It's
insane.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I think I found out the name for it. It's not traffic. It's something else.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I ended up getting a maintenance job, and I did that for a little bit, but I hated doing that. I went to one of the best schools of music, and what am I doing? At the same time, I was starting my business, like the first designs in my studio, because I needed panels for my studio. And then I needed to make money, but I wanted to figure out how to do it within, music. And initially, as an artist, I didn't, know how to get gigs or anything. So,
wow, that's really important. Can you kind of talk about that side of things? Like, it's, you find yourself in the music industry as a whole, and you might realize there's actually many more ways than not to make money outside of maybe just in addition to being a musician. Yeah. But can you talk to that state of mind that you were in at that time, transitioning to, really providing value the way that you knew how as a music industry, and then maybe how that kind of brought back, value to yourself as a musician? Actually?
Yeah. I mean, at least having my own business in the acoustics and in the music industry, allowed to sort of make my own schedule, and so I could spend time recording and writing in my studio, and then and doing the development of the products and the panels. It was a lot of work to do the acoustic work, and initially I built everything myself. Did all the appointments, built everything myself. I even installed it all myself. and that's like backbreaking, because you're
Wow.
up there holding this guide up in the air, and like leaning back on a ladder, and like, it's not easy to do it by yourself. Eventually I got people. Um, yeah.
How long was it that you were doing things by yourself until you really were able to be profitable and start, earning enough revenue to hire people?
Yeah. So, um, I don't know, probably a year, less than a year, maybe. Um, the first person I had helping me out, working with me, was actually the bass player in my band. So we jam in my studio. Um, he was actually sort of a newish bass player, but he had a lot of ambition, and I was like, okay, I developed all these bass lines that I like for my stuff, and I taught him, sort of apprenticed him in like really getting good at bass and being my bass player for my band. At the same time, he was helping me, started working for me, doing certain aspects of the panel building, to take over some of that. So yeah, and we, yeah. At first, when I first hired him, I was in it was a container, what do you call it, a storage unit with electricity and AC in it. So that was my upgrade from my apartment, which my apartment was my bedroom, my studio, where I lived and slept, everything. And that's where I was building the panels initially. On the floor, I'd put plastic over my futon and my studio equipment and spread them out, and then staple the frames together on the floor with the cardboard initially, and cut all the frames by hand. Cut them all by hand, the first 100 panels, pretty much.
Right. So, like, how has it been? And I want to get on both sides of the spectrum. We'll kind of maybe parlay back and forth, and I want to use this, interview to do so. But, like, how is that? Is it seasonal? Would you say? I mean, it's 15 years now.
Yeah.
And how long is the company? So has the company been around for about what? Is it 12,
it's 15
years as well?
15 years.
Okay.
I was probably in LA a little longer than, maybe almost 16 total.
Okay. What has that experience been like for you? Because you just kind of talked about it, right?
Yeah.
About taking that approach of you hadn't really learned how to, get that earned revenue on the music side of things as a musician just yet. And so you took that leap of faith and wanted to, develop a company that added value into the music industry.
Yeah.
How have you been able to balance your time between your music career and your acoustics company? And like, has that fluctuated over the past 15 years? And like, then third question to that is like, do you feel now that the 15 years, you're not so much stressed with that balance of time, because it is a dance with that balance, and ultimately, both ends of the spectrum end up being taken care of. But how has that balance been over this past 15 years?
Yeah, I mean, early on when I started in LA, I was pretty diehard. Like, I have to work so many hours on music and so many hours on business. But then there were times where, like, I have a bunch of orders, I got to complete them. I have all these deadlines, so I have to focus on that. And then I come back to music and writing. But I mean, every day I maintain some writing, even if it was 15 minutes that day or something. But
Wow.
I mean, the business has been like extremely time consuming. I didn't have any background in building a business with employees. I didn't go to school for it. I didn't learn from anybody. I had no mentor. I just had the trial and error everything. Like, it's painful to do it that way. But
So to that, I'm glad that you brought that up. I have a question for you around that. How do you define success as a musician and entrepreneur, and then how do you measure it?
I mean, success depends. I don't know. Depends on. I mean, my viewpoint. I'm still trying to reach for higher success every day. Like I'm never satisfied. That's the thing. So, but I think so. We've had a great level of success with the business, and my music is on its way to completing a full-length album. That's what I'm working on now. I did an EP way back then, like 3 years after I was in LA. And we did play in bars and clubs all around LA. But I mean, success is, I'm still working on it. I mean, every day, on the music and on the business. I mean, success is like you have so much, I mean, like total stable success is you're prospering so much that you can provide for your friends, your family, pay your employees really high wages. I mean, we pay our employees well, but, I like to aim even higher on that, and then, getting more involved with community stuff and so forth.
Right.
But, yeah.
So are you able to maybe, and I'll get onto the art side of things in a moment, but kind of to hone in on this part, are you able to measure, like, what is your measure for that success on a very practical, maybe quarterly and yearly basis?
Yeah, I mean, it's just being really just profitable every week. I mean, I look at my statistics constantly, like every day. Okay, am I profitable this day, this week, this month, this quarter, this year? How much did I grow from last year? Every year we've grown, but it has to grow. Like nothing stays static. Like either you rise or you fall. Like I'm a firm believer in that. Like you have to keep pushing, or you won't make it. So
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. So now let's get into the music side of things really fast. How was your experience first? Because I have a handful of questions on this side of things.
Yeah.
But first, how was your experience in acoustics? Being, an acoustics professional influence your music, and then maybe even vice versa.
Yeah. It's influenced me by, being able to really create a great, like a professional recording environment where I can record pro level vocals or guitar or bass or drums. I think it's been very useful for that. Like, everywhere I've been in LA or now in Clearwater, Florida, I can treat any space. So I treat my own space with our own products. So all of that knowledge followed into, my recording techniques and being able to record it at pro level,
Right.
So in that way,
so the quality of your sound, the quality of your sound is definitely enhanced through your acoustics experience.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Would you be able to walk us through your creative process for writing and producing music? I know that you have a full-length album coming out right now. Can you maybe take us, pull the curtains back, take us through what that creative process for writing and producing your music looks like?
Yeah. I mean, that album probably will take another year, just so you know. But
okay.
But yeah, I'm working on it. And I mean, my process is usually I'll sit down with a guitar and just start playing around, writing, working on scales or just blues melodies mostly. I'll come up, I have a background in classical guitar too. So I do like blues, finger picking kind of rockish, some R&B background too. And then I'll just start jamming on the guitar, and then it starts to develop a picture. I start to see pictures like scenes, like in a movie, like the tones of the guitar produce a certain mood, right? Like something that's, and then I start getting like pictures of, I'm thinking about the scene that's happening. And then I start writing the lyrics a little bit first a scratch. I'll do like a scratch melody. I might record the guitar and just do like a nonsense scratch melody vocal that works with the guitar. I'll usually do that, and then I'll start throwing in some lyrics, sometimes with the melody as I'm developing it. So it usually starts like that. Yeah.
Do you like replace that scratch melody with with instruments sometimes, or do you then come in? Is that like the demo for another vocalist, or do you then just layer it, yourself in a few other versions?
Yeah.
Make that enhancement.
So basically, I'll just take, on the iPhone, I'll just use like GarageBand that comes with it, or voice. Yeah. If I just have a guitar idea, I'll just use voice memo real fast to capture it. But I'll use GarageBand, I'll record the guitar part, and then, I've already got the mood and some pictures going in my mind. So I'll play the guitar part, and then I'll hit record, and I'll just sing some melody with nonsense lyrics that fit the mood, and I'll try to capture some good, ups and downs in the melody. And then I'll play it back, and then I'll start writing some lyrics that fit that. And then as I'm writing the lyrics, the melody may change to work better with the song. I start seeing the scene more clearly. Now it really starts to look like a movie, like a song I'm working on that I wrote was about a homeless guy I met in LA. He was like going into a dumpster, and I'm like, hey, get something better than that. I gave him some cash, and he was like, I'm going to make crackheads. I'm like, just trying to get you a better meal, but maybe it was just joking. Right. I don't know, but that got me thinking. Like at that time, I wasn't doing like well financially, so I was thinking of like, could I end up homeless if I fail at my business or music or whatever,
Especially in LA,
yeah.
That vibe.
Oh yeah. Yeah, right? It's a lot of that. So like, I was just thinking, so then as I'm writing this song, I'm just thinking like, okay, what if I had like a full-on conversation with a homeless guy who was explaining to me how he ended up that way, and then so the whole song goes around that, and like my thinking, and then the person's thinking, and me trying to think like that person, and so that all these pictures start developing into like a scene, like a movie, like it would make a music video, like, but a real story that travels, basically.
So I have a piggyback, on this one, because this is kind of getting into your inspiration, what inspires you and how you get inspired. So can you kind of like pivot a little bit and talk to your newfound inspiration now, 15 years later, but even not so much the creative process, but do you actively go out to receive and to receive a scene? Did you actively go out to get inspiration, or like how do you stay inspired and motivated to create new music and also innovate in your acoustics business? I want to talk about both ends of the spectrum, like waking up on a daily basis. Like, can you maybe talk to your why? Like what's your North Star?
Right.
What's that why? And like how do you stay inspired to really both burn both ends of the candle, so to speak?
Yeah, it's really observing life and people and trying to meet new people and do new things, and just going here or there to visit. In LA, it's interesting because there's so much going on. Every type of person you could meet from every background, race, religion, everything you can imagine. You meet all these different people, different perspectives. So like, I don't know, I try to understand people's struggles and their viewpoints, and then my own mixed in there to analyze it, sort of. I don't know. I like observing people and talking with people and getting to know them and getting to know them. I like people's stories. Like everyone has some kind of a story of a struggle, or like those are the most interesting. Yeah, like when they struggle, but then they succeed in the end. Some struggle and they don't succeed. I mean, those are interesting stories too. Maybe something to learn from, maybe something, to teach somebody in the future, to help them out. I don't know. Yeah.
So on that's more so on the even, I think even holistically, because I think that does sound like a lot of bit of drive and passion for continuing to seek more business, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to like, John Hunter Acoustics, and I'm sure that you continuously hear stories from your clients, day in and day out. We were talking right before we started the interview. Can you speak to, you're installing a new product today. So maybe can you speak a little bit to what John Hunter Acoustics does? What the product actually is, and then talk to that enhancement that you all did today with the lights, adding lights to these acoustic panels now.
Yeah. So the product was developed because, when I was at Berkeley, I set up my own studio. I put foam all over the walls, right? And the problem with that is it makes it really dead, but it's not even sounding. Like it's not balanced. The room isn't balanced. So we use a material called rock wool, which is a dense acoustic material made out of stone fibers. It's actually volcanic rock spun into fibers, and it has density, so it captures bass frequencies. So what we do, we use that. Like when I found the correct material, about 15 years ago, is me and a friend were setting up each other's studios, and he's like, "Hey, you need bass traps," and I had learned a bit about it, and then we had found the right material, like the nice dense material that actually absorbs bass frequencies and balances sound. So then I developed my product, and that's what, because it's the correct material that really absorbs bass and can balance sound frequencies, I found it really worked for me. So I felt like I could help a lot of people, use the right material, balance sound frequencies, and not just set up, foam and have all this trouble with speaker translation. Like you studio, it sounds way different in your car. Like you can't figure out the levels. With our products, like our customer are really amazed by how even sounding their rooms are. They sound really like flat and even. Huge improvement. Like we get it all the time. Like people are so surprised and happy at how even sounding their rooms are. And then the client from today, I'm always trying to like think a little bit ahead with a new product. Like lighting is very interesting, and it's it's trendy to add lighting. It's like a little bit of a newer thing, so I want to incorporate it into our panels. But these are like color changing, and you can change each bulb individually on the app, and it can work to music. I mean, there's a lot of lighting that does that, but I wanted to incorporate it into our panels. So, I mean, we just help a lot of people, and we use the correct material. We charge a fair price. We're not overpriced. We're not underpriced. We're viable, and we can pay our employees pretty well. So. Yeah.
You just hit all ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So let's start to wind it down. I have a couple last questions to ask you really quickly. How many times did you have to refine the panels over the past 15 years? Like how many versions have you gone through? And is it a continuous refining process? Because like you said, like you're continuously trying to stay innovative, in the space. And so does that innovation come with like a more refined product, or does it come with, and do you think that adding, the lighting makes it a more refined product, or like how does that get to that point, and what's your assessment, of your product to then decide if you want to refine it even further or stay as is and continue to charge what you're charging?
Yeah, so initially, when I set up my studio in LA, I had bought these bag panels. They're basically suede fabric, but they're bags, and you put the insulation inside. But they were like very floppy looking. So that first design, basically, those bag panels had the right idea. They absorb from all surfaces. So, but I wanted to do that, but make it more rigid and make it more aesthetic. So, so I added like corner supports. That's the first design. So then later, I was getting some feedback from clients. They loved the panels, how they absorb sound, but they were just a little bit like inconsistent on the edges, right? So then I developed a frame to make it really clean looking, and then but it's completely floating, so you're absorbing from all 6 surfaces still. And then later on, we add, there was just a little bit of inconsistency with the thickness of the panels. So then I refined it further to make it, like perfectly consistent with more support, but still open framed. So, I mean, that's like the development process. And then, but throughout that also, how we're wrapping the panels, the wrapping technique, the pressure that we're exerting, before music, I had a lot of background in drawing, painting, art, visual arts. So I used that plus my construction experience growing up in my dad's house, in my parents' house, which was built in 1791, by the way.
Wow.
And yeah, old colonial in Connecticut.
So do they have like the sign out front, like historical landmark type of vibes, type of house?
But they were going to bulldoze it before my dad bought it, and my dad bought it, and then we've just constantly renovated since I was a kid. I mean, as soon as I could pick up a hammer, I was picking up a hammer to help my dad, like, knock down drywall or whatever. But I have that background growing up, and we had a basement full of tools, like every power tool you can imagine. And I'd ask my dad, "Hey, can I use the saw?" And he's like, "No, you're too short. Like, you're too small right now." So eventually, when I was tall enough where it was safe enough, I was using table saws table saws, drill presses, skill saws, you name it.
Sawzalls, right?
Sawzalls, yeah.
Right.
Every Dremel tools and all kinds of I was building little cabinets and different things as a kid, so I have all that experience. I was always creating stuff, whether it was before music and art. It was just like with tools, power tools, and different things. So I combined that with art and then music, and then developed our products bit by bit, refining it, making the edges smoother, like perfect, like making it like to me, it's been art. Like it's been a work of art, making it more like a work of art, more refined, more clean, while incorporating the right technology and materials to make the sound as perfect as it can be. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And this leads us to my final question, which is really perfect. Yeah. So, John, what advice do you have for aspiring musicians and entrepreneurs who are looking to follow in your footsteps as both a successful, singer-songwriter, vocalist, multi-instrumentalist, as well as successful business owner of John Hunter Acoustics? What advice would you have for aspiring musicians?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, no matter what you choose, you got to keep at it. Even when you feel like giving up, it's like, there were many moments when I could have said, that's it, go back home to Connecticut or something. But I didn't let that happen. You have to keep pushing. Keep pushing. You're going to have a lot of failures, but you'll have a lot of successes. Just push harder than the failures, and keep learning, keep educating yourself, keep studying knowledge, study the industry, study everything you can know as you're developing your career. As long as you keep learning and you keep pushing and you just never give up, I mean, that's really the key, I think. So,
I love that. I love that. And that's something I really want to ask. I'm going to even start compiling, over a period of time, like just based off of that question alone. Never giving up, continuously learning, so that you can stay on your toes. I think those are two really, really great ones. So,
because I think the difference between someone who's successful and not is that successful person at that 10th year or whatever, it was like almost over, and they just pushed just a little bit harder, and they just made it. And most people just make it like barely, and then they succeed after. So like when it feels like you're most failing, that's when you need to just push the hardest. So
keep going.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, thank you so much for that word, man.
For sure.
I think I can take inspiration from that, even just finishing my night for the rest of the night and just the work that I got to complete tonight. So
all right.
To that end, man, where can people find you? Let people know your handles, your website, maybe phone number if you wanted to. But yeah, how can we find you? How can we get a hold of you? And
you can go johnhunteracoustics.com. That's our main website. To see we post all our studio installations at John Hunter Acoustics on Instagram. We post it on most of the social medias too, but Instagram's our main. Our business phone number is 323-640-1655. In case want to call us directly. Or just email us at johnhunteracoustics@gmail.com. So
perfect. And so, ladies and gentlemen, producers, engineers, studio owners, artists, anyone that knows someone that owns a studio, even creating and building a new studio in your apartment, in your house, do not forget to contact John Hunter Acoustics so that he can get you right and get the sound quality in your space on 10, on par. So,
all right.
John Hunter Acoustics, ladies and gentlemen. John, thank you so much for taking the hour with me, and I look forward to working with you here in the future.
All right, and I just want to shout out to our amazing employees because I couldn't do this without them either. Like, they're the best of the best. Like, building, manufacturing, installing. I mean, they're rock stars too. So I just want to shout out to them too.
Yes, and you all know who you are, John. That's really admirable. Obviously, he really cares about you all. So how lucky are you that you all get to work with each other and have a great experience? So, again, kudos to you, John Hunter, and your whole entire team. Shout out to your team. And again, I really do look forward to growing better business with you here in the future.
All right. Appreciate it.
John. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.